3, 2, 1. Hey, Shorties. Welcome to the Short Asian Girls podcast, where we talk about everything Asian from a 5 feet point of view.
This podcast is about music, fashion, food, chisme, and of course, just being short.
Now, of course, we may not be ABGs, but we sure are SAGs, and we will talk about everything and anything related to it. Woo!
Finally, the time has come, and your Short Asian Girl podcast is now in session. This is Season 1, Episode 0. Firstly, we would like to formally introduce ourselves.
Hi, it's your singer, songwriter, dancer, choreographer, and now your SAG certified host, and of course, freshly graduated from college, AJ.
And I'm your extroverted queen, your Gemini Sun, Leo Moon, Sagittarius Rising, and now your SAG host, Sarah Michelle.
But I know, or rather, I hope you asked yourself, what is an SAG?
Yes, AJ. What is an SAG?
I mean, like, if you want to know, or like if you like really want to know, SAG is simply a very smart acronym that stands for Short Asian Girls. So that right here.
Sorry. Yes, but nevertheless, we are very excited to be here and to be able to bring you everything and anything revolving both the cultural and the global content from a 5 feet point of view.
But of course, just a very short disclaimer. We do not claim to be professionals. We are just two girls, two short Asian girls who are stating our own views and opinions and also just learning and growing within this industry. So take everything with a grain of salt, as again, this is just something that we love to do for fun as we learn. And for this episode specifically, as this is episode 0 of season 1 of this podcast, we again would like to keep it short, just like us, to just talk about the who's, what's, when's, where's, and of course, the whys of this podcast.
Yes, and as I've talked to AJ before, I think the most important thing to really just talk about is the who's of this podcast, correct? And as we just stated, I am one of your hosts, Sarah Michelle, and we have our other lovely host, Miss AJ. But if it wasn't for our connection through TRAKLIFE Media Group, I don't really think this podcast would really be a part of our journey as, 20-year-olds in the music field.
Yes.
And you guys might be asking yourselves, what is TRAKLIFE Media Group, or who is TRAKLIFE Media Group? TRAKLIFE is a platform and a community that is focused on elevating the emerging artists. And, not only do they do that, but they also provide tools and resources for artists to grow.
And now for obviously the where's of this podcast, given as if you're watching the visual aspect of this podcast right now, we are obviously not physically together at the moment. Hint, hint, at the moment. But that is because I am personally from Washington State. This is where I reside. This is where I live. Whereas our wonderful co-host here, Sarah Michelle, is from LA. So again, right now we are doing this kind of hybrid. Also in the future, maybe in person, again, hint, hint. But yeah, just because we are doing episode 0 here virtually for you does not mean that we cannot take you anywhere and everywhere and talk about anything and everything. But again, for now, episode 0 will be here virtually for you, but in the future will be in person.
Yes, potentially. You never know. But through this podcast, what is kind of just keeping us going is that this podcast, we are going to be using it to keep you guys all up to date with the latest of everything, ranging from music, fashion, food, gossip, and just so much more. And this is just going to be a very safe space where we are going to be using this podcast to not only show what we love from our own Filipino culture, but also enjoy worldwide.
And now obviously for the last W of this episode is the why. So obviously we've asked this ourselves too. Why a podcast? Why couldn't we just do YouTube channel, TikTok account, and Instagram, or like a blog post? Honestly, sky's the limit. We didn't want to limit ourselves, and as short as we are, we have very big dreams, very big aspirations, and we just wanted to reach you guys in whatever way possible that we can. And we thought one of the best ways is through a podcast. We just want to share our love for music, and again, apart from making or wanting this to be a safe space for everyone, we want to be able to learn from you guys listening in, so that we can take our own experiences and share them with you, and then learn from your experiences as well, and to just dive into the beauty and the scary aspects of this industry.
Yes, and not only are we going to be focusing kind of on the music side, but we also have some other things in store for everyone, because not only is the music field a part of music, but it's just everything from beginning to end and everything in between. So it's kind of just everything that we know together, just like AJ said. But yeah, quick fun facts before we do end our episode, though, is
Personal fun facts this time.
yes,
Nothing
personal
too
fun
serious.
facts. Yes. Or maybe a little serious. I don't know, I guess.
A little. Yeah.
I guess. But just like a couple fun facts about us personally, is we are both we are both from different places, but we both have the same essentially ethnicity background, but we both have different views on it and different growing up. So it's kind of just really cool to see how we grew up and how we learned about everything. And yeah.
For me, obviously, as we said, we're both Filipino, but for me, I wasn't actually born here in the US. I was born in the Philippines, and I moved here when I was around like 9, 10 years old. So, and I'm 22 now. So I've lived in the US for a little longer than I've been alive, but my first exposure is to the industry, to music, the industry just in general is from Asian media. So the Philippines, obviously, and obviously the Korean dramas, Japanese dramas, Chinese dramas, anime. So that's kind of like my core foundation. And then my knowledge of Western media growing up is like the second part of that foundation. So just being able to share that with Sarah and kind of learning her exposure to Asian media on top of her first knowledge of Western media was kind of an interesting conversation though.
Yeah, so unlike AJ, I was actually born and raised here in the US. Obviously LA, I've always just been here. But I guess something different is like, and I'll go into this maybe later, but going into kind of my background is I grew up very westernized. Like my sisters grew up here, and so I learned a lot from them. But most of the things that I do know of the Filipino culture is going to have to be from my parents. So it's kind of different because like I know the older generation Filipino music and shows and movies. And then when I hear things from like AJ of the newer generation, I'm just like, huh. I was like, I guess I just always associated everything that I knew of Filipino culture from what my mom knows. And then everything after that is like, you know, the westernized
blurred,
side.
a little
But
blurred.
yeah. But nevertheless, I love the concept of the music industry, the entertainment industry, because there's again so much. Is like even just like the way me and AJ, you know, we met and we kind of just shared not only love for who we are and what we are, but you know, like the music. Like me and AJ coincidentally worked on one project together, and it just so happened that, you know, me being an extrovert, I was like, let me adopt her. Let me just, you know, let me just take her under my wing. And, you know, not only have I taught her things, she's taught me things, and there's just a lot to go on and process and do, you know.
And I feel like given that I mean, just like another like fact about us, like we're only like maybe a little over than a year apart. So I'm younger for everyone out there. But given that we are very young in this industry, despite the fact that we don't have that much experience, we have knowledge from being fans first. So that's kind of like what I guess in a way inspires us to do this. And then also just another thing is just because obviously this is called the Short Asian Girls podcast, talking about our Filipino background and our knowledge of the Asian industry does not mean that we're going to exclude anyone else. It's just that we like that is our core personally. That is like how we grew up. So that is kind of like where we're going off of. And we also just want to kind of, especially nowadays, it's Asian excellence or like Asian creatives and artists are becoming more highlighted and celebrated. Whereas I can't speak for everyone, but me growing up, especially when I moved here to America, it wasn't very easy to find people that looked like me, that looked like us. And so we just kind of want to be able to be a platform that highlights and welcomes anyone despite of whatever race, culture, or whatever background you come from, just because if you remove all the titles and all the accomplishments and all the names, we're all just people who love what they do and want to kind of reach that same goal of being successful and being able to share what they love.
Yeah, and on top of what AJ is, talking about, like, what we learned growing up, but it's like it's just we're able to use this podcast to talk about everything that we enjoy of, like, at least not only Filipino culture but also that Asian culture, because like AJ said, like she likes everything about it, like from beginning to end and everything in between. But for me, I didn't really learn any of that until I kind of was a part of the TRAKLIFE community and getting to learn it from different perspectives. So not only Filipino culture, but Korean culture or Japanese culture or everything again in between. It's very amazing, I guess. And I'm very passionate about it, and I'm sure AJ is too. So yeah.
And then just some things that you can expect from us. A lot of things. You can expect a lot of things from this podcast. We're going to talk about anything and everything, meet people, interview people, collaborate with a lot of people, just kind of don't set we're gonna try to not set any boundaries for ourselves again because we want to also learn from other people. But yeah.
Well, I don't want to give too much away. So I guess for as of now, this is going to bring us to the end of our first 0 episode. Woo! Again, we would like to really just thank you guys for taking the times in yours mornings, noons, nights, late nights, or whichever time zone you're listening in to us.
And please do follow us on our socials at Short Asian Girls Podcast on Instagram, TikTok, X, Threads, and honestly any other form of social media out there to catch up on the latest news, story times, music, gossip, honestly, or anything that you guys just want to share with us, just so that we can see it. And also head on over to TRAKLIFE.music to catch up on TRAKLIFE's projects and also for more updates on our podcast.
Yes, and don't forget to use the hashtag
Shorties moment.
That's hashtag SHORTIES moment to share your favorite moment from our podcast, or honestly anything, because you never know, you might make it on an episode online or in person.
And also, if you do want to listen and stay tuned for our future episodes, we will be available on most, if not all, streaming platforms of your choice. So just head on over to your preferred one. But this is your Short Asian Girl, AJ.
And I'm your Short Asian Girl, Sarah Michelle, signing off.
But please, of course, don't forget to live your life to the fullest, because just like us, life is too short.
Yes. See you on the next episode.